like y'all would hear me like sleep or something because I would leave the link up.
Because we just
It would be the worst.
And we're
close the browser after this.
I'm just like drooling somewhere in the corner.
That's the best way to start a live feed. With absolutely no context. And all right, and welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews podcast, the podcast for people who actually like movies. We're here on YouTube Live, and if you're listening to this podcast later in the comfort of your own home, in your car, wherever you're listening to us, maybe to go to sleep, to Reggie, perhaps. We
love Reggie.
Thank you so much for checking us out, and we are going to talk about an awfully good
with a question mark.
Great movie. Great. Awfully great.
Yeah, awfully great movie. I guess we it's something for sure. We are going to talk about Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and I'm extremely excited to have these fine folks here with me this evening. And with me, first, we're going to go to Reggie. I've already mentioned his name once. Reggie's already been on the podcast before. Hey, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you,
Or should I say, hi, Reggie?
Hello. I'm Reggie. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I kind of forget all the time. But my two favorite movies are Queen of the Damned and a Goofy movie. But this is kind of like, close third.
For sure. Yeah. And you mentioned a Goofy movie before. I have been plugging my own show that I did like a month ago so hard. So this is the last time I'm going to plug it. Brandon and I got to go to the Lincoln Film Festival, and we interviewed Kevin Lima, the director of a Goofy movie. It was excellent. Please go check out that video, check out that podcast, and hopefully we get to come back to the film festival in the near future. And Brenda Chapman, Academy Award winner, she's a friend of the podcast now, which is fantastic. So great awesome to have had that opportunity. But thanks for coming back on again. It's been a long time since Reggie's been on. Yeah, he was actually on an Oscar spotlight like 2 years ago for Hidden Figures, right?
Holy cow, yeah.
It was like a long time ago. I'm glad to have you back. We also have joining us for the very first time from Chattanooga, Tennessee, DeShanee Thomas. It's weird calling you Thomas.
Ooh, it's weird hearing it, dude.
I had to practice it like 12 times.
Are we doing that out loud now?
Yeah, I think it's a thing. I went off Facebook.
Well, I guess.
DeShanee.
Hello, all. Hello.
We're so glad to finally have you on. I've been trying to get you on the podcast for forever, and it was my bad scheduling.
Yeah, you suck at life.
So you had to move. You had to move 8 hours away or whatever.
I know, right?
I finally get you on the podcast. So
7 hours.
We're real mad about it.
I know. I'm mad about it. How dare I?
Mm-hmm. Reggie gave you a bit of a hint to this, but for all new people on the podcast, we do ask them a single question. DeShanee, What is your favorite movie?
The Craft.
What? You had a great answer right away.
It's my favorite movie. That shaped me. Hello, how is that not my favorite movie?
That's fantastic. And also joining us, Mr. Geoff Lathers, Jeff Leathers himself.
Geoff Lathers, nice to meet.
How are you doing, sir?
Well, I am just great, Craig. Nice to be on the podcast.
Oh, you sound ugly.
That's why the camera's disabled.
And you also had to move out of town before we were able to get you on the podcast. You're coming from the suburbs in lovely Chicago, Illinois, right?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying. Because real Chicagoans would be all over that
and beat you. They would just
when I tell anybody in all 49 other states that I'm from Illinois, they instantly go,
"Oh, Chicago."
Oh, yeah.
That's literally what's been happening to me.
I'm positive that is. So thank you so much, Jeff. What is your favorite movie?
Gosh, it's hard to say, but I think the movie that had the biggest impact on me, I've only seen it maybe twice, but Life is Beautiful, that Italian film.
That's the one where the guy got up at the only thing I know about that movie, I haven't watched it, and maybe I will now, but I just remember the guy jumping up at the Oscars and like pulling a Tom Cruise and like walking over the chairs. He was so excited.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I
you
have
gotta
no
go back
idea.
and watch him because he won Best Actor, I believe.
That sounds
I'm
right.
not even mad.
Okay,
sounds
that's
right.
exactly what I would do. So
I
mean,
like that. I wouldn't
yeah.
step on Oprah, but like I would like, you know.
you can't step on over. You have to go around.
No. Like I would tiptoe around her ledge. 'Cause, you know, like that's how excited. Because normally I'd be like, oh my god, it's Oprah. I gotta like stay away. But like I would tiptoe on the edge for Oprah.
Yeah.
And Best Actor. Like it's just something that would happen, and we would laugh and kiki about it later. It'd be great.
Well, hey, life is beautiful too, Reggie. It sounds like
You're up for it?
you need to get in touch with that casting director.
Eventually.
No,
about
it's
we
great.
talk about The Room?
It's a really impactful movie. Get some tissues.
All right.
That's all I have to say.
We will. And because Reggie said so, we're going to dive right into this movie. Now, I want to let everybody know, usually I drink a beer while I'm doing a podcast. For this show, it required my Disney Cruise Uber mug. So just so you know, I kind of thought this one would take a little bit more alcohol. Geoff, I asked you if you could gather up a synopsis for us. For the folks that haven't seen this, we're going to discuss this movie in length. This is part of our Dishes series, which is kind of just us dishing on a movie, and we are going to talk spoilers. If you haven't seen The Room, I highly suggest that you go out and do it before listening to this podcast. Or if you have no interest and you just keep hearing about this terrible movie and everybody says it's one of the most terrible movies ever made and you just want to know about it, then go ahead and listen. Starting with the synopsis. Mr. Leathers, can you please give us a synopsis for this film?
So you asked for short and sweet, and I don't know that it gets any better than this. A successful banker's fiancé tempts and manipulates his best friend. That's it. I think that's the actual synopsis for the film. Like he was
solid.
I think it was the official. Yeah, that's the IMDb.
That's
official
excellent.
synopsis.
I like that. I like that.
Please.
Let's talk first impressions of what was the first time that you saw The Room. I'm going to go first on this one. I won't say my opinion of The Room quite yet, but the story that I have for this, I've told everybody I've seen this movie maybe 1.25 times. And I say a quarter because the first time that I saw it, we went to the Music Box in Chicago, and they were doing a midnight screening of, they rotate on the weekends. On like Friday nights, they were doing Rocky Horror. On Saturday nights, they were doing The Room. And I had never heard of The Room. I'd never seen it. All I knew is that it was a BYOB theater and that I was supposed to bring plastic spoons. So that's what I did. And I indulged. It was a bachelor party. Kirk Garrison, 6 or 7 years, happily married now. But to me, it was just like the perfect experience to see it in a huge group of people that obviously love the film, love the cult aspect of this film, and we're just dogging on it the whole time, throwing utensils at the screen and just quoting along with every, oh, hi, Mark, as it came along. It was fantastic through and through. So next we're going to go to, let's go to DeShanee first. DeShanee, when was the first time you saw this movie? And I think you said you've seen it a ton, right?
Yes, actually, the first time I saw this movie, I was in New York City visiting with a friend. His friend showed us the movie. This was about 7 or 8 years ago. And we were just in this little apartment in New York watching it. And I felt violated. Do you have ghosts? Was that a ghost?
That was my cat. Sorry. I don't even know what he messed with. He's on top of our cabinets right now. He's good.
Ghost.
It wasn't the baby.
It might have been the baby.
Good.
I just assume it's the baby. But it was in this tiny apartment. I felt personally violated after watching the movie. But it was hilarious because it just had all these one-liners. And the first time I watched it, it just made me want to make everyone else in the world watch it because I couldn't go through this alone. I couldn't.
For sure. Geoff.
So the first time I saw The Room, I was hanging out with some roommates, and of course, every good room story, we were drinking, and they had all seen The Room, and it came up in conversation, and I was like, no, The Room, what is that? I thought they were talking about, there's some like horror movie with a similar name that came out in the early 2000s, I think. So they, upon discovering that I hadn't seen The Room, immediately stopped everything they were doing, and like we sat down and watched The Room. And it was horrible and wonderful and terrible and beautiful all at the same time. And I had to just watch it. I think I watched it like 3 more times that month. Just every time there's something new. Somehow there's something new that you didn't see before. It's beautiful. It's terrible, but it's beautiful.
It's terrible and it's beautiful. That should have been on the. That's the tagline for the movie right there on the box. Put it on the box cover. It's terrible. Yes. ... But it's beautiful. Reggie, first time you saw this film?
So the first time I saw The Room, I was in college, and I remember this. We were clearly in one of the parlors, Stoddard Parlor. Hey, shout out to y'all. And they were like, yeah, we're watching The Room. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm just here for the shenanigans, And they throw this movie on, and I'm just like, what in God's name is this? I've never encountered somebody that's just like riding the struggle bus immediately, but then like, but somehow it just makes you feel so much better because your life is like slightly more together. Like, I wish I would have seen this when I failed my first pre-cal final, because that would have just made everything okay. Like, train wreck. It's a beautiful train wreck.
So you're saying all my college kids that if they come in and they're having a rough day and they're like, I just bombed that exam, tell them to go watch The Room and see that you can make your dreams come true.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I will say, I think this is a good spot to jump off into the creator. Usually we talk about actors and scenes and stuff, and I think that this has got to kind of be a big amalgamation of that, because it's just hard to talk specific actors in this movie so much. But I do want to spend a bit of time on Tommy Wiseau, because this was his dream. And I mean, for as much as people dog it, he owns this film. He thinks that that they really enjoy it. He wrote this film. He directed it. He produced it. I believe he had a hand in editing it, and he starred in it. So this is his passion project through and through. And I mean, good for him that he was able to go and be able to make this film. But at the same time, if you look at the budget of this movie, it was about $6 million. I'm not sure where any of that went.
Cameras and all the goodwill, costumes, and
that's a lot of goodwill.
A lot of over editing, like the amount of stuff. He bought the cameras instead of rented them, right?
I did see that. I will tell you, I printed out the IMDb trivia. Usually you get a couple of random facts and figures. This is 12 pages. 12 pages. Now, I mean, we should say that it's 12 pages because there was a book written about this, and that book is becoming a major motion picture, which we'll talk about at the end of this podcast. But yeah, go ahead, DeShanee. Go ahead and keep on rolling.
But mostly I don't want to say wasted a lot of money, but he spent it in a fashion that I don't think he knew what he didn't confirm with another person. Like, hey, should we buy this? No, let's buy 3 of them, was his thought. We're making a movie. That's how this happens. I honestly don't even know how much were those actors paid?
They better have been for all of that.
I think like something at least, right? They had to have been.
They had to have been.
Guys, they shot this film. They shot this film for 9 months.
Houseway.
I just did an episode on Fury, which is a great World War II film, and they did that film in 62 days. This took what is that? This took 4.5 times the length of a great World War II movie. So.
Does that include the rehearsal time? Because I was browsing through an AMA Tommy Wiseau did like 2 years ago, and apparently they rehearsed for 6 months with the actors as well. I don't know if that's counted in. I don't know if it was like 6 months of rehearsal and then like 3 months of filming, or if we're talking like 6 months of rehearsal, 9 months of filming.
Stop it.
I don't know,
Like-
guys. That's a lot, but there's
Especially
some,
for the product.
yes.
The
There's some
opening
intrigue.
shots.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh no, I was just gonna say there's stock footage in the opening shots. What are those? The Seven Sisters? That's in the opening
Yeah.
shots of like Full House. That's in there. That's in the
Yeah.
establishing shots.
Yeah, and then also things like they used a green screen and did that for the rooftop as opposed to just going to a rooftop.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about there's some conspiracy and maybe some myth. I don't know how much of it is factual or what the real truth is. I guess only Tommy knows. So maybe if he chimes in while we're doing this this podcast. But what?
Only dream.
Tell us some of the theories. I know that you all have been researching them. Tell us some of the theories and the ways that he got this $6 million, because apparently he's independently wealthy, but no one really understands why he is.
Well, does anybody know about the DB Cooper theory?
Tell me.
Oh my gosh. So this is my personal favorite. So DB Cooper was that bank robber, right? Who he like got a getaway plane and then he parachuted out with the money and nobody knows what happened to him. He like over the wilderness somewhere out west, nobody knows what happened to him. Like maybe like 5 or so years later, Tommy Wiseau pops up out of nowhere. Who like to this day, Tommy Wiseau, what he tells people he was from Louisiana mostly, but that he like was born in France maybe. Even Greg Sestero, who played Mark, doesn't know his whole truth, and he probably knows Tommy better than anyone on this earth. But so there's people think that maybe Tommy Wiseau is actually the bank robber DB Cooper, and that The Room, with its huge budget, and when you watch it, it's clearly a low budget film, was a big money laundering scam for DB Cooper, now Tommy Wiseau, to be able to spend the money.
Basically to wash out the money, huh?
Yeah.
I'm watching Ozark. I just learned the term wash the money, guys.
Oh yeah.
Right?
No, honey.
Gotta launder the money.
That's awesome. So that's a really intriguing theory. So essentially this guy disappeared for a while, came back as this odd man that really enjoys vampires, and just kind of went from there, huh?
That's the way the story goes. I personally don't think it's true, but it is my favorite Tommy Wiseau backstory.
All right. Anybody else got any other conspiracy theory stories about how he got this $6 million?
Yeah, like the thing that I'd researched before was just mob money. And again, another money laundering thing, but mob money, saying it came from one place. Doesn't it say that like he said that he sold clothes, imported clothes or whatever?
Mm-hmm. In France or something.
Yeah, no. Mob money. I'm going with mob money.
Like Eastern Bloc mob money,
Mhm.
like cheap knockoff designer clothing.
I will say that to this day, if you have the DVD, on the backside of the DVD cover, there's like a website where you can go and buy underwear from Tommy.
No, you're...
That's okay. The DVD is like right behind me. Hold on, let me.
Fact check it.
I'm getting fat. I don't know if I feel good about getting fact checked in real time here.
You gotta get it to that website.
Well, you guys got to finish this podcast before you go and buy underwear. So,
do we have to?
Let's talk
I can
about
open multiple tabs, Craig.
Let's talk about Tommy's. We can talk about his direction. We probably should, but let's dive into his acting in this. The man is not a good actor, and I feel like he thinks that he is. Reggie?
Dude, yes. So like normally there's like some type of method or style, or you could tell like, oh, this person is like a slice of real life, or oh, they're just like slapstick or whatever. You don't really know who or what he is like at all. Like you guys mentioned that he was a banker. I had no idea. Like none. Okay. So and those are the things that you kind of like look for when you like get to a movie, is how like well someone can portray their character, but also like give you information that sticks, and he doesn't really like. You be confused as hell, just lost.
For sure. So, DeShanee, talk to us about Tommy's acting abilities or lack thereof.
Okay, so Tommy's acting abilities, which I put in quotes, and I wish you guys could see my face because you know how my face reads. His acting abilities are hilarious. They're cringeworthy only because he's not overacting or underacting. He's this monotone being that finds Craig.
I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
My apologies. I think I found the website. It's just TommyWiseau.com.
You found it. He's just this monotone being. Like, everything is the same note. Even his anger and his rage and his lust and his drunk, they're all the same note. And it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as an actor, you sit back and watch it and you're like, emote. No? Okay. That's the scream.
Well, he makes some really terrible decisions because, like, the rooftop scene where Mark's talking about how this girl was beaten, or like and then he just starts laughing about it, like what are you talking about? And then just and I guess this gets more into his direction because again he was this movie, but like so many times it's the scene is focused on this minutia that we don't care about. Like, for instance, when they're in line at like the bakery or whatever, you see like the 3 customers before him order. Like, why do you care what they're ordering? You know, like, I don't care that they want a bagel. I just want to see the movie.
Oh,
you know. Anyway,
I think we could really dig into the writing with that one.
That's true, and he wrote it.
Oh.
By the way, one of those orders was a cheesecake and a water, just so you know.
They don't even go together. Like, why would you think?
You know, you want to treat yourself, but you also want to be healthy. You want to hydrate.
Reggie, I'm glad that you're in the middle of like cocooning yourself. Like,
I just like have to withdraw occasionally because it's just too much.
For sure. So, Geoff, you tell me about Tommy. Whether you want to talk about his writing, his directing, his acting. What do you want to talk about with this guy?
Let's talk about how in his writing. See, I think my impression is that he tried to write The Room so that it would be his sort of like Oscar run, his magnum opus. He brings all these things in, like, I'm Johnny, an all-American football-playing successful banker with a beautiful fiancée. But then he brings in all these elements from like maybe other Oscar-worthy stories, like, oh my God, I'll give the mother-in-law cancer. But the way that's brought up is we have one line about it, and the mother-in-law says, oh no, like almost smugly, like, prove you wrong, like, oh no, I got the test results back, and I definitely have cancer. And then they never talk about it. And Lisa's like, back to my problems, boom. And then we never hear about it again. And then, what is it? The mother-in-law has some weird lines right after that. She says, like, oh, that no good so-and-so, he's trying to steal a share of my house, which only makes sense if you're Tommy Wiseau and you don't, like, English can't be his first language. I feel like
no.
I gotta say, you know, so that lady's name is Caroline Minot, whatever. She to me is the worst actor in this. I was gonna bring it up later,
Really?
but like,
I kind of thought she was the best. That's interesting.
But if you think about it, like,
you.
if you think about it, like, that line that she delivers when she's just like, the test results are in, I definitely have cancer.
It's definitely cancer.
Like, like there's no reaction beyond that. And then she almost like, it's almost like a meta thing. She's like narrating what we're thinking. She's like, that one point where she's like, how many people come in and out of this apartment every day? Why do they do that? So, but just the way that she delivers some of these lines, guys, I can't do it. I can't.
Well, how much of that is Tommy's directing too?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's true.
Consider, like, in the prequels, we have really good outtakes of Hayden Christensen like delivering compelling lines as Anakin, and then George says, no, just be angry instead.
Right. That's true.
And a lot of his writing, they had to say it verbatim. They couldn't ad lib. They couldn't
Really?
deviate from what he wrote.
You could have fooled me.
This is like an Aaron Sorkin joint, huh?
Like, I know the big thing for me with her, I thought her stuff, just like you said, she said a lot of the stuff that I was thinking as I was watching it. So her delivery for me was hilarious. I thought the worst person acting wise was the guy who played Danny.
Denny.
Oh, hi, Danny. Like, he was the worst for me.
I just want to watch. Sir, you are doing too much.
Was anyone else puzzled like what Denny's relationship was with Johnny and Lisa for like the first 40 minutes of the movie?
I still don't know.
Explain, Geoff.
Well, okay, so like eventually they explicitly state, maybe like it's in the scene where they catch Denny like with the drug dealer, and apparently Denny has bought drugs to resell them so he could have money.
What kind of drugs, Denny?
Where are the drugs? Did you do the drugs, Denny? And like Greg has his arms on the mother-in-law, like really weirdly, he just like kind of appears and he's like holding her hands over the shoulders. Anyway, I think that's the first time in the film that they talk about how Denny, maybe it's a little earlier, but they talk about how Johnny helps pay for Denny's school and for his apartment. So Denny is some wayward college student that Johnny financially supports. Mm-hmm. But like from those first couple of scenes, like when he comes upstairs and you're thinking like maybe he's their son, I don't know what, like maybe this is bad casting. and then he says like, I just want to watch. And they say, no, Denny, three's a crowd. And he acts like kind of like a little too upset and like offended and then leaves. It's almost more perplexing than the like 3 rapid fire sex scenes in like the first 30 minutes.
Can we get back to those?
The first 3.
I have a lot to say about the sex scenes. Can we get back to those later?
Yeah, absolutely we can. I kind of want to get back onto wrapping up. Well, and obviously Tommy is within this whole movie. This is his thing. But any other comments particularly on Tommy? And then we've talked about some of those tertiary characters. I really want to go to Lisa and Mark as well and have a discussion about those folks. So Tommy, I don't know what else is to be said about him. He's this man of mystery that really no one knows where he came from or who he really is. He decided he wanted to make this movie. This was his passion project. He had, according to the trivia and according to the Disaster Artist book, he had subplots where he was a vampire and he wanted there to be a flying car at one point because his vampire powers would allow his Mercedes-Benz to take off from the roof. This movie. We lost Reggie. Reggie's gone. This movie is just so perfectly an example of how maybe not everybody's dreams should be achieved. Anyway, anything else on Tommy before we move on to some of the others?
Can I just talk about, and we're gonna segue eventually into the love scenes, but Tommy's body and how he worships his own body.
Oh my God!
I wish I had those body goals.
I got to give you the quote. I need to find it here.
There's a quote?
Keep talking, please.
I don't understand his muscle structure. That was my biggest thing.
He looks like Skeletor.
Like, how do you have muscle on top of bone and it's showing and there's also wrinkles? Like, I was very confused. I didn't understand how it was put together. Like, the Legos weren't fitting for me.
All right, so again, a lot of this trivia comes straight from Greg Sestero, which we're going to talk about him. He played Mark, and he wrote The Disaster Artist, which is the basis for the film. James Franco is directing along with Seth Rogen. This is straight from IMDb, but also straight from the book. According to Greg Sestero's book, Disaster Artist, Tommy Wiseau insisted on having his bare bottom filmed. Quote, I have to show my ass or this movie won't sell.
So basically, he was prostituting.
Well, just he obviously has a very high opinion of himself to think, if I put my butt in this movie, I'm going to the Academy Awards. I mean,
You know what? I'm not even mad. I can't be mad.
Good for his confidence.
It was his crowning achievement. He had to throw it in there.
I'm mad you said crowning
achievement.
Ew.
Oh, don't take it there.
All right, I think we got to turn the page. Oh, hi, Mark. Let's
Oh,
talk
hi.
about Greg
Hi,
Sestero as Mark. Let's talk about his character and how we felt that development was. For one, I'm glad that he stuck with it, because he started doing this journaling when he knew that this process was going off the rails, and that's the basis of what we've got. You know, I mean, we've got The Disaster Artist as a book and soon to be as a movie to help document this cult classic, and I appreciate that. His acting, I don't think I appreciate it much, but again, it's one of those where how much of that is Tommy's influence? Let's start with Geoff this time.
What's going on here? That's my best Greg Sestero. All I can think of are the scenes where Lisa is seducing him in the most blatant way. Like she's like straddling him with like a glass of wine, and there's romantic music playing. There could be like flower petals falling from the ceiling. She's like taking off her outer jacket.
You are my rose.
What's going on here? What, Johnny's my best friend. What's going on here? He's so confused the entire time. He just seems, the way he delivers those lines is every time it goes back to what's going on here, it's like he's like, oh, I get it. I'm really confused and I have no idea what's going on.
Right, and it's almost like he never learns anything throughout the movie. He's this reluctant lover in this love triangle that he really doesn't understand. It's almost like maybe that's the whole point, is that Lisa's supposed to be the manipulator of this whole movie, and so she's focused on manipulating Tommy to think that she's going to marry him still, and manipulating Mark. I don't know, but yeah, Mark, he doesn't understand what's going on a lot when it comes to the acting in this film. DeShanee?
Huh? What?
Talk about Mark.
Oh, Mark. Oh, hi. Hi, Mark. I actually liked Mark as a character. However, my big issue was I could tell the actor was done. He was bored. He was over it. He is me after I didn't get the costume I wanted. He's done. Like he's here for it, but he's only gonna do so much. He's trying to trudge through. And it was a beautiful rendition of, okay, I guess we'll just do this. But he is very good at popping up at the most random times throughout the film, which I don't know if that was a directorial choice of, hey, I'm just going to randomly throw this character in. But there are just times when he popped up that I was like, oh, hi, Mark. What are you doing here? And my least favorite moment was actually when they shaved off his face hair. I thought that was dumb. Yeah. Because why shave him and not give him a haircut? Who was doing hair and makeup? I have so many questions.
Maybe it was Tommy.
Oh, God. Hair and makeup by Tommy Wiseau. Reggie, talk to me about Mark.
Ah, jeez. So, like, I actually kind of liked Mark. Like you said, I thought he was clueless. He didn't have any type of clue, recollection, or indication as to what was going on, even when he was in the thick of it, and I do mean in the thick of it.
Hey.
But it was just like, I don't know, man. I just, like you said, you could really, like DeShanee said, you could really tell that he was like done and over it, and he was just like trying to like show face. But I have a question. I just want to know when he knew that it was going downhill, and he was just like, I gotta write this down. Like, this is just way too much. Was it like day 3, or was it like day 457?
My understanding is that it was pretty early in the process. I mean, if you look at the script, to sign on to the script, you had to probably be a pretty desperate actor. This is one of those, again, stealing from the trivia. that he wanted to get Paramount to distribute this film, and generally it takes 2 to 3 weeks for film to get either approved or rejected, and they rejected him within 24 hours. So it's, this isn't a film that anywhere remotely looks like it's going to be a successful venture. And I mean, maybe they didn't know what they were getting into exactly. This is alluded to in the first trailer of Disaster Artist, but it took Tommy 32 takes to do the rooftop scene where he basically says, like, Mark, I didn't hit her. It's bullshit. I didn't hit her.
I did not.
I almost did the scene for him just then, and I haven't seen this movie in a long time. So, it's one of those where I think, I don't know, we've all done local theater and community theater. We've all been in some shows that we knew went off the rails. How early on, now you don't have to get specific here, but how early on in the process did you feel that those were going awry?
How do I do this without spilling tea?
Yeah, just don't mention any productions.
No. I'm not that petty. I mean, like you said, you usually know like pretty early on, because like there's an air of indifference, or there's like a pompous attitude, or there's just like some type of notion that this person really is either on a power trip, or they just have they're just full of delusions of grandeur, like of the highest degree. And that's definitely something that I feel like Tommy Wiseau, whatever, is definitely capable of doing. And you could see it all on Mark's face, just like all the time.
Isn't that kind of an endearing quality about Tommy Wiseau, though? Is like this whole time, everyone knew this movie was going to be shit, but to him it was like his great American Hollywood movie.
And to this day, like, he shows up at screenings still, and he eats it up. But I mean, it's probably making him a lot of money now. In the box office, box office for this, it grossed $1,800 off of a $6 million budget. I mean, let's talk about like passion projects. Being a podcaster, I love me some Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith made Clerks for $27,000, and it made $13 million at the box office. This is the anti-Clerks. It was made for $6 million, and it brought in $1,800. But it's like, now it's one of those. It's become this amazing cult classic. So I'm sure they're all getting a payday somewhere. When you look at the IMDb pages of almost every one of these actors, none of them went on to really do anything else other than either do cameos as their characters from The Room, or do specials where they talk about being in the room.
But what else could they have done after this?
I guess I don't know.
It's like being a Star Trek actor.
Right?
Yikes.
Hey, I like Star Trek.
What else do we have? Anything else to talk about, Greg Sestero? He's provided us with, like I said, oodles and oodles of trivia, and so I'm very grateful for that. What I'm also grateful for is that Seth Rogen and James Franco put him into Disaster Artist. He's playing a mail clerk. I don't know if that means he's in it for a second. I don't know if that means he's got a little monologue, but he's playing a mail clerk in Disaster Artist, so we'll get to see him in that.
I hope that he was just spilling tea and gossiping the entire time.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move on to the last actress I really want to focus on, because we talked about Danny a little bit, and we talked about the mother-in-law, but let's talk about Lisa.
Lisa!
And I literally just had the IMDb up, but I lost it now. Juliette Danielle, I believe is her name. But let's talk about that actress. And I don't believe we've ever had DeShanee start a conversation about an actress. So let's go ahead and go to you, DeShanee. What do you feel about Lisa?
Okay, so fun fact with
You know
Lisa,
her?
probably knowing me. Fun fact, that actress wasn't the first person to play her.
Really?
Also, yeah, it was someone else, someone who was a little bit older. She got picked up after that the first actress left. Also, the actress who plays Lisa was pregnant at the time, and I know the first time I watched that movie, I was like, she a little bit chubby to be doing nude scenes. I know that's terrible. However, girl was pregnant. So
Mm.
she was very pregnant doing love scenes with this guy who she did not want to be around.
Can
Um,
you imagine
Is
being
that
her
why?
kid?
Never mind.
Zawawa.
Is that why they were like? Never mind.
Is that why he was going for the belly button?
He
Oh
didn't
God,
go for the belly button. That
that
was
was
not
like
belly button. That was
in
like
her
all
armpit.
top. That was all top. I'm sorry.
Can you
But
imagine being
this,
that kid and like seeing like, oh, this is the movie mom
Why is this
made
dude on my
when
mama? Like, let's
I
not.
her as an actress, I feel like a mom on the sidelines, like, honey, you tried. Good job. Good job. You tried. She tried.
Are you Kris Jenner to her Kim Kardashian? You're doing sweet. You're doing amazing. I'll just
how
You're
say
old
that.
doing amazing, sweetie. You're doing amazing.
I love
how old do
that.
you think she was when they filmed that movie?
Mm.
You guys have any guesses? Without looking it up, just what do you think?
Oh, I would say like 22.
I was going to say like 25, 27, somewhere in there.
I was gonna say like 32.
Somehow, Craig, I don't know how, 23. I always thought it was
What?
like 27 plus as well.
I don't know. I just think that you have to be kind of young and naive to take this role.
Yeah.
You're right.
You know?
You're right.
So you got to be like really desperate trying to make it. So I actually think that out of all of the people in this film, I would say that her acting is better than just about everybody else in this movie. Would be my opinion of her, and she does play this obviously this integral part. She had to do these odd sex scenes. We've already alluded to she didn't want to continue to do the I don't know if we talked about this in the chat beforehand or if we actually mentioned it on this episode, but she didn't want to have to do multiple sex scenes with Tommy because the first one was so awkward. So if you look at it, it's a recut version of the other sex scene that they didn't use because, for instance, they walk into the room and the candles are already lit, and that's a fire hazard. You know, if you're gonna leave candles just on, like lit, leave candles on all day. It's the beer talking at this point, guys. But so she had to stick it out just like the rest of them, and she seems to deliver her character a little bit better than people like Greg Sestero as Mark or as Denny. She's to me stands out in that regard. Reggie, you got anything?
So I have to agree with you. I think that she was definitely the standout. But also, I really like the mother-in-law as well because she was serving me like pure dynasty, like. But back to Lisa, I already forgot her name. Sorry, love you anyway. But I feel like she had the most roles for opportunity to like be crazy because she was taking out all of her like angst and frustration on the project and like by being like neurotic and like pushing the limit. So like yeah, Tommy was like doing the most, but she was like doing the most in character because she like could like try and get away and like get on old dude's jock as opposed to like she probably needed a break too. Like let's be real.
That's excellent.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that anybody would have been able to deal with like being around Mr. Wassail after he was like humping the chest. Like
yeah, for sure. Geoff, have you chimed in?
Not too much. I think Lisa just what's interesting about her character is that she's two different characters. It seems like the entire film. she's around Tommy, or around Johnny, excuse me, around Johnny. Lisa is just the sweetest fiance Johnny could hope for. The second she's talking to anyone else, she's vicious. She hates him. It's really, really like it's written so poorly. I think she does an okay job of delivering the lines. I would agree with that, but that almost makes her character seem more out of place because there's such a distinct duality because she's delivering the lines she was given well. But one thing I did want to touch on because we brought up the sex scenes. Did anyone else notice, like in the sex scene between Lisa and Mark, were they're on a spiral staircase? Even though there are like beds and couches all over this,
all over the place.
House. They choose like
guys.
to do the spiral staircase.
You just can't. You can't. Put a stop to love. And,
No, you can't.
It just happens sometimes. Sometimes in the heat of passion, you just find the spiral staircase and
in the sound,
you just go for it.
You throw caution to the wind
for this movie.
You make awful moaning sounds the whole time.
Yes, no. There's like Greg Sestero's voice is so like over. It's way too loud, and there's just a very uncomfortable. Like right in your ear. Like it's louder than the music. It's louder than anything else in the scene. And the sound engineer was like, you know what, we need some more Greg Sestero moaning in the viewer's ear.
Exactly.
That's excellent. Well, if you could believe it, we're coming up on like close to an hour, I think, on this show already.
Wow.
So
Oh my gosh.
what I want to do is and we haven't even talked about some of the other stuff I want to talk about. So I want to do, if you have any scenes that we haven't already discussed as part of this discussion about the actors, I want to do rapid fire. So we'll start with Reggie first on this one. Reggie, any scenes in this movie that haven't really been mentioned, you want to just throw it out there, see if there's any kind of reaction, and then we'll just move right on to Geoff.
You know what? Honestly, my favorite scene to watch, like spontaneously, is when they're in the cafeteria. Like we mentioned it, but I only want to watch like the people in the background because they're not in the background. There's like one guy that's looking directly at the camera, like, and he's just
I
like
hadn't even noticed that.
He's just like all up in the grill, just like this. And like they slightly bring him into focus. But then there's also a woman in a haute couture dress that's like black and it's like silky, and she's eating a piece of pastry or something, and she's getting a life. Like, and that was so much more interesting to me than the actual conversation that was happening between the two main characters that I just had to like just wait.
That's excellent. I love that.
Wait.
Geoff?
The flower shop scene. What,
Yes!
There's no other answer. There's no. Oh, hi. Oh, hey, Johnny. I didn't know it was you. Yep, a dozen roses. Here's the money. Here you go, Johnny. You're my favorite customer. Hello, doggy. Bye.
You forgot keep the change.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's the best. That is the best.
And why is it necessary?
It's not. You're right. It doesn't make sense.
How many movies have used, like how many dudes in real life have used buying flowers for their fiance, for their wife, whoever, and like you don't cut to the sale of the flowers. Like no, people understand that a transaction occurred.
You got he's a regular. He's a regular at the flower shop. But they spent all the money on cameras and on footage for the intro, so they only could rent the flower shop to shoot in for 3 minutes. So they had to just in and out, quick takes.
I could have did it in 30.
Oh man.
Hey.
Like,
yeah. So DeShanee, you got a scene you want to mention?
Okay, let me see if I can.
Have you talked enough about the sex scenes? I guess I should
Actually,
say.
there's a couple more things, like the rose petals falling off of their bodies. I thought they were tumors at first, but that's not the scene I want to talk about. The scene I actually want to talk about was a scene on the roof with the drugs. That is literally my favorite scene because it makes no sense. What kind of drugs, Daddy? What kind of drugs? What kind of drugs? Where's the money, Daddy? How much money? How much money? I love it. And then the fight that happens and the gun getting wrestled away and the police being called. Oh,
Oh,
pandemonium. It's so good.
And they don't even talk about anything really for like,
No.
it's just 3 minutes of the mom yelling the same thing.
She really is hysterical the entire time.
It's so good.
Oh man.
I love how like Greg Sestero is just, I think I mentioned this before, but he's like right up behind the mother-in-law, like chest to her back, hands on her shoulders. Like second love, there's a love triangle there. It's not in the script, but there's a love triangle.
Oh, can I also give you my favorite line? When
Yes.
Tommy asked Mark,
Yes.
"How's your sex life?" out of nowhere. I was like,
It's in the
seriously?
coffee shop, right?
How's your sex life? Wait, what? How do we transition to this? But okay.
I would have been so offended. Like, get off my jock. This is none of your business.
Next time I see Reggie, like, wherever we're at, he could be showing me the backstage of the Ghost of the Library. I'd be, how's your sex life?
Yes.
I would throw a book at you.
All right.
Ever.
Okay, guys. So usually this is the time that we do what didn't work for us, because usually us being the podcast that love movies, we talk about, we try to balance it out a little bit. So I am turning that on its head for this one. What worked in the room for you? And I'll go first because I don't want anybody to steal it. What worked for me is, and this might sound a bit corny, but the fact that Tommy, to this day, thinks that this is his masterpiece, this is his passion project, this is his dream. A lot of people might listen to our podcast and be like, man, these guys don't have good sound quality, they don't have whatever, XYZ, they don't know enough about movies. But, this is our passion project, and we're doing it. Like, so the fact that he actually went out there and did it, however he got this money, however he secured the actors, the several that left the set, how he went out and found other ones, he saw this through to the end. And even to this day, he defends this film. And for me, I know that that's not necessarily something that's in the film, but I dig that. So I do give him a bit of respect for that. So I know we started with Reggie last time. Let's go to DeShanee this time. If there's anything that really worked in the room for you.
Dude, I'm actually going to piggyback off you and just say the audacity of all of it.
The audacity of the room. It's like Barack Obama. But,
yes.
But the room.
Audacity of the entire production. The fact that you put this product out thinking somebody's going to watch this. And we did.
A crap load of people did.
We did.
I bought this movie 3 times because I loaned it out to people. Like, we did. In product. We're talking about it right now.
Erica,
There's a movie
she wants her
about a
second
movie.
copy back.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just saying. But there's a book coming out. There's a movie about the movie coming out. There's tours. Like, you keep your confidence up and it'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just flat out the testicular fortitude of Tommy.
Testicular fortitude.
All right. Well, Reggie or Geoff, I'll throw it up. Who wants to go?
Go ahead, Geoff.
I'll take it. Yeah, I would say, oddly enough, the pacing really worked for me. When you look at other films that are this bad, I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's like Pizza Man or Pizza Boy with Frankie Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle. Atrocious film. Like funny bad, but there's always pacing issues with those films. This is a train wreck that just doesn't stop delivering. Like, there is no lull. I mean, you would think it would get old, but it almost innovates in how bad it gets as it goes along. Like, whether intentional or not, the pacing is set so that it keeps your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether for the intended purposes or not, it's there.
I get that. Reggie.
So, okay, I have like 2 things. First off, the stock footage at the beginning, because I was like, oh my gosh, this scenery is so good. I'm expecting like product, like delivery, yes, quality, yes. And then y'all just let me down. And it was just like, what is this train wreck? Like, and like you said, you really can't like stop watching it because it's continuously more train wrecky as time progresses. But to piggyback off of what DeShanee said, like it's such a good movie.
She piggybacked off of what I said.
I
sure
well,
It's like a
I'm
three-step.
piggybacking off.
This is like a love. This is like a love triangle.
We can at least get to the root of ours.
Strong legs.
Should I just start moaning while you're saying it?
Human centipede.
I need an adult. But gosh, too much.
Y'all can keep your stack. I'll be over here with my face.
All right.
But like this movie is so good. Like I look for movies that are like so bad that they like make you feel better about yourself. Like I mentioned, like I wish I had this when I failed my like calculus class the first time. And it's a classic because it's like, yeah, my life is a wreck right now, but it's not like I'm not $6 million in debt though.
Yeah.
You know, and like even with him being like in debt that much, he like still made it like a great time for him. So kudos to Tommy.
Now, before we go into our wrap-ups, I wanted to mention, I was just kind of skimming the book from IMDb Trivia, and something I wanted to address because a lot of people have asked, why is it called The Room? And maybe it alludes to the end of the movie where he's in a room by himself when, you know, the shotgun goes off or whatever. Spoilers. I guess I said that it would be spoilers. But it said, and I'm thinking that this might have been, it says it was in a special Q&A, and maybe that means it was in this AMA that you referenced earlier, Geoff. It says Tommy Wiseau addressed several fan questions in a special Q&A feature. Among these, why is it called The Room? To which Wiseau replied, the title is meant to invoke a safe place for viewers. Okay.
I needed a safe place after.
If that's the case, he should have called it Ice Cream Shop. I'm just saying. The next, why is everybody playing football in tuxedos and standing 3 feet apart?
Thank you.
To which
dropping the hottest mixtape of the year.
To which Wiseau never directly answered, except to say that football is fun, and to do it without gear is challenging.
That's called rugby.
He genuinely he likes to play football. He just apparently really likes throwing the football around in real life.
Well, and I get like when you're, you know, like so Kevin, front row Kevin, you all know Kevin. Him and I, like once a year, we seem to find ourselves on a baseball diamond playing catch, and there is something that is just nice about that. You know what I mean? But to do it as part of like moving the plot along in the movie, especially like when we go out to the field, we're not wearing tuxedos to do that. Yeah. So it's just an odd choice. There's a lot of odd choices in this movie. So now let's talk Disaster Artist. As Geoff mentioned on his Facebook post earlier today, Disaster Artist is releasing tomorrow. It's been already through the film circuit, film festival circuit, and receiving pretty good reviews. There's some kind of Oscar buzz around this film, maybe for Best Adapted Screenplay, maybe for, who knows, Franco for direction or actor. I don't know. It's kind of a stacked year for that. But so Disaster Artist is going to be coming out shortly. I may go try to see it down in St. Louis. And if we do that, then I'll definitely jump on and do a full disclosure on it. But what's interesting I thought about this, and I wanted to note it, is that when I listened to a Seth Rogen interview, the reason why they're making this movie, he said he has seen The Room over 100 times. He's seen Citizen Kane 1 time. So like these movies that we think of as these classics, as these pillars of cinema, we don't necessarily go and revisit. Like, how many times have you seen Gone with the Wind? Or how many times have you watched a movie like Citizen Kane? But for some reason, we keep coming back to The Room, whether it's socially with friends or whether it's just because we need a fun time for ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, so I like that it's out of love for this film that they're making this movie, and it's not out of some kind of spite or to make fun of the film throughout. So I am excited for Disaster Artist. Anybody have anything to say on that?
I love that it's being made. It makes me happy that it's being celebrated as opposed to being completely trashed. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, they're gonna make fun of it a little bit, but that's part of it. That's part of its culture. You make fun of it. It's what you do. But they're not trashing it, and I think it's glorious.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would second that. I think I totally agree. Like, I wouldn't want to support the movie if it were just straight up trashing the disaster artist,
Mhm.
or excuse me, the room. But the fact that they are, celebrating it, and also celebrating Tommy and just his, like DeShanee said, his audacity to have this huge vision that was just totally out of his skill set. But still, it look at us talking about it today, because there's a movie like DeShanee said, just echoing that. Like, yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
For sure. Reggie, you gonna go see it?
Oh, the Disaster Artist, of course, of course.
I feel
wanna-
like if we, depending on if it gets nominated for any Oscars or like that, maybe the four of us should come back together and talk disaster
Yes.
artists.
Yes.
Yes.
we have to do it over drinks, because like
Yeah, for sure. Drinks from miles away. Actually, and I should show you the proof. The cruise line cup
Hey,
is gone.
there it is.
So
champion.
I
I
wanted
was
to
drinking
mention.
scotch, so
Wanted to mention we did have some people in the chat, and this leads into my last question before our official wrap up. But Cynthia said that riff tracks showing it live was the best part of the film. And if you haven't seen the riff tracks to this, you need to. It's absolutely incredible. So go out and check out the riff tracks. I totally agree. The next one is my brother, and he's dogging on this movie again. So Scott seems to think that this movie is overhyped. And I asked the question at the beginning of the day, is this the worst movie ever made, or is it a film classic? And so that's the last question I have for you regarding The Room. I will start with Geoff. Film classic, worst movie ever made. Go.
I really think the answer is just a simple yes. It embodies the qualities of. It's a terrible movie. You know what? No, I would say film classic, because there are worse movies, or there are other equally bad movies in terms of acting, direction, writing, but they just don't have the same lovable quality that The Room does. So yeah, no, I revised my answer. We're throwing out worst movie ever made. Is it a terrible movie in terms of production value and acting and writing and sound? Absolutely. But like you mentioned earlier, what Seth Rogen said, he's seen The Room over 100 times. There are probably millions of people on this planet who could say the same thing. So definitely film classic in its own way.
Reggie.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say worst classic made.
Okay.
Just because,
I
like,
see you walking that line.
you just can't. Like, there's
You're like
nothing.
You're like Joaquin Phoenix right now. You're walking the line.
Yep. I'm Rudy. I'm Rudy on this railroad track. Yeah, it's just like you can't deny that this is like definitely something that will stand the test of time of like being watched years later, and people are gonna still laugh. They're gonna be like, "What in God's name?" Or if we're like dumbing down like society, they're just gonna be like, "Ha, I get the jokes." Like, but either way it goes, like it's gonna be one of those things that like I want to show my kids this one someday. I don't plan on having kids like right this moment, so like it's gonna have to be like 20 years later or something like that. But like I'm definitely gonna show my kids this. Like this is absurdly beautiful.
So my kid is
It's
third
just
too. You think it's time?
Oh yeah.
Just throw him
Oh well, give him like 4-5 more years. He'd be
in.
out.
Okay, 4 or 5 more years.
Oh,
A
five.
6-year-old quoting The Room. Oh, hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Going.
Yes.
You're gonna
Where are
have
the
some
drugs? Where are
interesting
the drugs?
Oh, hi,
parent-teacher
Dougie.
conferences.
Shoddy.
I'm going to go with classic only because the thing about The Room is I call it film herpes. It
You
needs
guys
to
are
be
all killing
spread.
Scott, by the way. He's dying in the chat right now. He's
Scott,
he
go
can't-
away.
he can't believe it. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Stop it, Scott. You let us be great.
So go ahead. Film herpes. Sorry.
Film herpes. It needs to be spread. Literally, the only time I watch
It's
the only
taken
time
forever.
forever. The only time I watch The Room is with other people when I have other people watch it because of how absurd it is. And they go out and they get it and they tell their friends about it and they watch it again and again. And I am always willing to watch The Room with somebody and show it to someone new. It's a classic. It's going to be like Rocky Horror at some point for some people. It's not as big yet, but it will be, I think. Yeah. And it always brings a smile to my face, and it's the thing that will make me stop and have a conversation with someone. Have you seen The Room? Yes, I've seen The Room. Oh, now we're talking, and now we're going to be like, oh, hi, Danny, every time we see each other.
Scott,
it bonds. It's great.
So Scott's on a 7-second delay, and he said, DeShanee, you know you love me. I agree. I'm gonna play that Joaquin Phoenix role too, but say that I lean this towards one of the worst films ever made. And the thing about that is I think that you need those kind of films to understand what good filmmaking is and what actually goes into it, and that not everyone can go out and make a film. So it's not a movie I necessarily want to revisit all the time by myself. But I think in a social situation, it makes a lot of sense. And you got to give it to Tommy again. The Music Box Theater, when we went to go see this, they rotated Rocky Horror and The Room. So that's an accomplishment in and of itself. For a theater in Chicago to know that there was enough of a following to compare this to a cult classic like Rocky Horror. So guys, I just want to do a quick plug for the show. Go to www.thefrontrowmoviereviews.com. You can find all of our links to social media. You can find everything that we have already done. We have so much coming up in December. Obviously, we're all loving and celebrating Christmas. So I personally am going to be recording our Beyond the Mouse, the Disney-themed podcast. We're going to be talking about the Santa Claus, one of my favorites. And one of Anna's favorites. And then also I'm going to be talking Love Actually as well. And then with Brandon Davis, I'm going to be talking Meet Me in St. Louis. And I'm just one dude. There's a lot of other people involved in this podcast. They're going to be talking about things like Jumanji, since the remake is coming out towards Christmas Day. And as we were reminded during the Infinity War recap we did, there is a small film coming out on December 15th that we all are going to go see and hopefully love. So we will have all the coverage you would ever want from the Star Wars Last Jedi. So really looking forward to it. But
I was guys, like, little film. What?
A little film, yeah. Just an independent film.
Small
really, it's like Tommy. They went out and they found their budget, and now they're going to try to make their dream. So, guys, thank you so much for this. This has been such a fun time. If anything, even if we're not recording a podcast, the four of us should just get together and drink over the internet. This is great.
Yes.
This is fantastic. And DeShanee and Geoff, thanks for being on for the first time, and we'd love to have you on again. Reggie, it's been 2 years. That was way too long of a break. You need to come on, especially in one of these months.
Black Panther.
Well, Black Panther for sure. Okay. All right. Yes. But also, one of these months, I really want to do my Beyond the Mouse on a Goofy movie, and you will absolutely be on that episode. So for sure. So thank you all so much again. And I found that this really doesn't work over the internet, so I'm going to go ahead and direct this. I'm going to say I'm Craig. And then DeShanee's going to say, I'm DeShanee. And then Geoff's going to say, I'm Geoff. And then Reggie's going to say, I'm Reggie. Okay? So, for the Front Row Movie Reviews, I'm Craig.
I'm DeShanee.
I'm Golf.
I'm tired.
God damn it, Reggie. Every time.
I'm Reggie.
And we will see you in the front row with plastic utensils, throwing them at the screen. Because why is there a picture of a spoon anywhere near this film? Right?
You're tearing me apart.
You're tearing me apart. Oh,
where are the drugs, Denny?
Oh, bye, audience.
Oh, bye.